Well, good afternoon. My name is Tim Hamilton. I'm your tour guide today.
We just lost you.
I know it.
Oh, there you go.
And I'm from a small town in South Georgia, about 30 miles north of the Florida border. I've been out here in Texas for 25 years. So what we need to do now.
And we are only in Dallas for a day. Today's our day.
All right.
We actually travel with a fifth wheel camper. And
Oh,
we're on
wow.
our way down to the Hill Country, and then down to Corpus Christi, and then South Padre, and then over to Mesa.
And then
over to
places
Arizona.
where it's warm.
Yeah, hopefully.
Right. Okay. A person just joining us. Over here to your left is the JFK Memorial. This was placed here in 1970 by the citizens of Dallas. They took up a collection of about $200,000. First, let's start with the beginning of Dallas, and that happened over here on the left. That is Founders Plaza. That is where the city of Dallas is credited with being founded by a guy named John Neely Bryan. He was living in Arkansas at the time. He was originally from Tennessee, but he was living with a tribe of Indians there, and he wanted to come out west and establish a trading post. So he and his Indian friend named Ned and his dog named Tubby actually came out here, and they crossed the Trinity River to the tour. And over on the right up there, the right front, that is the Texas School Book Depository, now known as the Sixth Floor Museum. That is where the Warren Commission says that Lee Harvey Oswald killed President Kennedy from that window. And over to the right is Dealey Plaza, named after the gentleman on the statue up there, George Bannerman Dealey. He was the founder of the Dallas Morning News and a civic leader in the local area. Now again, the Trinity River is really not much of a problem, but when it reaches flood stage, it would flood Dallas with a lot of water. So they had to divert the direction of the Trinity River away from Dallas. And you can see the levee system up there, the berms. But you can imagine this whole place back in the 1840s. Nothing but flat, open land, a great place for buffaloes to roam. And as a matter of fact, Dallas in the 1860s and 70s was the buffalo trade capital of the world. They traded buffalo hides and buffalo tongues. Those are only two useful parts of the buffalo. They got rid of the rest of it, just let it out there to rot. Now you can see the levee system here, well, it's got a little water in it now, but normally the tree line is where the river goes. So they must have had some rain while I was gone, because it wasn't like this when I left a week ago.
2.5 to 3 inches.
Well, it must have filled up the Trinity River here. I've seen this completely covered in water all the way across. So that's a lot of water, and that's why it's diverted away from the city of Dallas. Now this town over here, back in the old days, was called Hoard's Ridge, and it was in direct competition with the city of Dallas to be the county seat around 1851. But there was a ferry across the river there ran by a guy named William Cockrell, and he was friends with John Neely Bryan. He shut the ferry down on election day because he said the river was too high to operate. And a lot of people over here couldn't get back to Dallas to vote for their city, so Dallas edged out Hoard's Ridge by a narrow margin. And that Dallas has been corrupt ever since. This is also home to Lee Harvey Oswald at the time of President Kennedy's assassination. And if you're a rock and roll fan, there's a famous rock and roll artist named Stevie Ray Vaughan that's from this area. He's a classic Texan.
You know him, huh?
I don't know him. I know of him. He'll see him all the time over at the records building.
That's a beautiful bridge.
Now, there's two bridges there. Actually, the one closest to us called the Margaret McDermott Bridge. The one furthest away, that is called the Margaret Hunt Bridge. And both of these ladies got that bridge named after them for giving away their dead husband's money. Now, the tallest building in the Dallas skyline is the Bank of America building. And just to the left of that is a building called Fountain Place. That is one of the 5 buildings in Dallas designed by famous architect I.M. Pei. If you don't know who he is, he's the guy who built the glass pyramid at the Louvre in Paris. To the far left is called Reunion Tower, named after a settlement here in Dallas called La Reunion. It was a bunch of French and Swiss immigrants that came over here, come up the Trinity River, and they formed a colony here. And they were all artisans. Few of them were farmers, but they wanted to establish a utopian society where everybody could live off the land and live in harmony with each other. Sounds great, but the patch of land they picked was, well, it's a concrete mine now. Nothing would grow down there. They weren't very good farmers, and they didn't realize that, so they almost starved to death. So they all moved into town, became bankers and lawyers, and got rich. So utopia is nice, but we got to eat.
And when you said that, were you pointing to this tower? This
the
looks
ball,
like a needle.
The ball tower. Yes, ma'am.
What's at top of it?
There's a restaurant and a bar up there.
Oh, good.
Now, to our direct front, on top of that building up there, you'll see a red Pegasus that's closely associated with ExxonMobil Oil, and that is the Magnolia Building, built in 1922. And for a very long time, that was the tallest building in the Dallas skyline. And during the 1920s, 30s, probably up to the 60s, people coming into Dallas by car could see that Pegasus up there at night shining, and they knew that they were getting close to the Big D. Airplane pilots in the 1920s, 30s, and 40s would use that to navigate into Dallas because it could be seen as far away as Waco from the air, which is about 90 miles. Now, the original they took down off the building in 1980s, and they sent it to the scrapyard. But when they were building the Omni Hotel over here, they decided they want to put something nostalgic out front. So they went to the scrapyard, they got the Pegasus out, they had it refurbished, and they've put it on display right in front of their hotel out here. And there it is right there, the original Pegasus. And it shines brightly at night, as does the Omni Hotel, and the Dallas skyline lights up very brightly at night with a lot of different buildings featured in the skyline. That is also, the Pegasus is also the mascot for the city of Dallas. Now, coming up to our front is the K. Bailey Hutchinson Convention Center. Originally known as the Dallas Convention Center, built in 1957, and once upon a time this was a concert venue. The Jackson 5 played here. Elvis Presley, the king himself, thank you very much. The Beatles, The Who, Queen, Madonna, Prince, twice.
And no longer
for concerts, just for conventions.
Okay.
They have volleyball competitions, cheerleading competitions. They sponsored the NRA, the FFA, Mary Kay, and sometimes they even have anime. And that's a little hard to get used to with all these thousands of people running around here dressed up like their favorite character. You thought I was going to say weirdo, didn't you? Now we'll get a demonstration of the modernistic traffic light system here in Dallas. I'm being facetious. It's going to be at Pioneer Plaza, which is over here on the right. This land was donated to the city of Dallas by a guy named Trammell Crow. He was a billionaire real estate developer. And they put this sculpture out here, and it's a park for the people of the city, and also over here on the sidewalks. You may notice these cows. Now, this sculpture was done by a guy named Robert Summers and cost the city of Dallas $9 million. Trammell Crow and his friends went in and collected private donations, and they paid for half of this. And the donors are out there by the pool, and the bigger the name, the bigger the donation. They're right there in that little red tile. Also up here on the right is a map of the Texas cattle drive trails. And over in Fort Worth, they have a herd of these cows that they run through the streets every day at 11:30 and 4.
बहुत बढ़िया भाई, एकदम जीवंत बुल बनाए हुए हैं। ऐसा लग रहा है जैसे सचमुच के होंगे। ये देखो, बहुत बढ़िया है भाई, बहुत बढ़िया बना रखे। जिसने बनाई बहुत बढ़िया बनाई है, बहुत बढ़िया, सचमुच के लग रहे हैं देखने में। ये देखो ना,
Position, the vice president, Senate Majority Leader. And he says, well, how often does a president die in office? He wanted his staff to calculate it. And he said, well, 20 years. He said, how long has it been? He said, 18. He said, I'll take that bet.
Really?
ये पुलिस पड़ गई पीछे, कार के, रेड वाली कार के, रोक लिया, लपेट लिया पुलिस वालों ने।
So no Tim Hamilton Street anytime soon, thank you. To our front here is another building by IMP. This is the Dallas City Hall, $1 million when it was first built. Yeah, it's a very modernistic building for its time.
Yeah.
And it was featured in the movie RoboCop, if you've ever seen that.
Oh, okay.
Heard of it.
And that's where the bad guys hung out. I don't know whether they're trying to draw a comparison against the folks that work there now, but could be.
That would have been a really modern building.
For 1970, yeah. There's a hotel called the Adolphus Hotel, built by Adolphus Busch of the Anheuser-Busch, that one with the green top to our front.
Okay.
That was built around 1922, and for about 2 weeks, it was the tallest building in the Dallas skyline. It has been home to American presidents and also been home to Queen Elizabeth II of Great Britain, her husband Prince Philip. And it's one of the nicest hotels in Dallas to this day. Now, this building over here on the right, this is the old Federal Reserve Bank. No longer in service, but you can tell from the scrolling and the architecture, this is from the 1930s. To our front, you may ask, what is that statue, Tim? And it is the Spirit of Communication. It is the corporate mascot for AT&T, whose headquarters is here in Dallas. Now, that was originally built in 1914. It was called the Spirit of Telegraphy, but now no one knows what a telegram is. So they've changed it to the Spirit of Communication. And it is about 24 feet tall. It weighs 15.5 tons. The wingspan on the Angel is about 9 feet. It's bronze covered gold leaf. It was originally in New York, then it went to New Jersey, and now that AT&T headquarters is right over here in front of us, it's here in Dallas, and that is the AT&T Discovery District to our front. And that's a nice place to hang out. And Adolphus Hotel over here on the left, and then we have the AT&T Discovery District coming up on the right. Coming up on the left up here is Neiman Marcus again. Neiman Marcus actually originated here in Dallas, I told you this morning. Been here since 1914, and that's one of their original buildings. They did have another building here before that. They were started earlier than 1914, but it burned down, so they put this one here to replace it.
And what did you say? This was the woman's place to go?
Yeah, Neiman Marcus is kind of like a Bass Pro Shop for men, or for women, yeah.
Right.
Barb and I were in Philadelphia this fall.
Oh.
That's where
Yeah, some people call it a needless markup.
Oh, well, and there is that.
Now, but there's a lot of nice stuff in there, I'm sure. Over here on the left is a building called the Wilson, example of architecture about 1903 here in Dallas, designed after the Paris Opera House. And it's apartments there now, loft apartments, that sort of thing. Also first here in Dallas, 7-Eleven was founded here in Dallas, along with Chili's, a restaurant chain. And the first integrated microchip was made by Texas Instruments right here in Dallas. Well, let's see what we're going to do here.
Oh, Thanksgiving Square.
Yeah, we're going to get out of Thanksgiving Square here. So hold on, let me come and get you out because there's traffic coming from the other way. And we wouldn't want to get hit by any of that. So let me get the door and watch the traffic while you get out. Now, this was all done by the same guy who designed the JFK Memorial, Philip Johnson. And you'll notice there's a spiral chapel there. It's called the Thanksgiving, or Chapel of Thanksgiving. This whole park here is privately owned and it was built about 1976 for the citizens of Dallas. And there's not a place for you to come walk your dog. It's open to all religions, all faiths.
ये थैंक्सगिविंग स्क्वायर है. मजा आ गया भैया. थैंक्सगिविंग स्क्वायर और ये थैंक्सगिविंग का मॉन्यूमेंट ये थैंक्सगिविंग मॉन्यूमेंट पे चलते हैं हम. पूरा स्पाइरल है. अभी ऊपर पहुंच जाएंगे हम स्पाइरल पे चलते चलते. Chapel of Thanksgiving. The Chapel of Thanksgiving is the spiritual center of Thanksgiving Square. The spiraling shape rises 90 feet above street level, suggesting the infinite upward reach of the human spirit. Constructed of white marble aggregate. बहुत बढ़िया, बहुत सुंदर. Chapel of Thanksgiving.
Now you'll notice this is also made out of, but this place, you want to put what you're thankful for out here in the car, put it out there in the universe. It's just a nice place. Pictures. And we'll continue on. We'll continue on. It's a little hard to do.
Yeah.
Especially against live there.
It is so cold, and yet
Yeah.
they're everywhere.
Like making some igloos or something, huh?
used to work with a lot of them as part of my profession, and
Yeah.
you know, they're pretty adept at finding
Places to stay in.
communities, and they won't tell us where they are. They're tents down by the river.
Yeah. They use, yeah. Over here on the right is the First Baptist Church in Dallas. This was founded in 1868 by 11 original members. And I say it's grown a little bit since then. This is one of their original structure over here on the right. Unfortunately, about 9 months ago, it suffered a great loss because there was a fire there. And it destroyed most of the structure inside. They're trying to evaluate it, I think, now. But it really didn't affect their worship service because
Yeah, well, there you go.
over here on the right, they got a great big fountain, and this also has a water show. They could do baptismals out there in that little area to the right. And this whole complex here is a Baptist church, but I think now they have, they have different types of ceremonies or different services where you've got some that are the old time, hymnals. But they've got a lot of these churches they go to that is almost like a rock and roll performance when you go in there.
Exactly, yes.
So I think that even in the Catholic Church they have those.
Yeah, I think so too.
But I'm kind of fond of the old school stuff.
You must be Catholic.
Well, like I said, I'm Catholic, but I've been several different things before. I converted about 2012.
Okay.
My wife at the time was Catholic, and all of her family. So then Pope Francis was appointed Pope, and that's pretty much the reason why I decided to. Thanksgiving Square, there's a great big circle I call the Circle of Life. And one of the reasons why I call it that, I believe life is a circle. You never know where you're going to land in there, where you're going to end up. My boss, I didn't know it when I started this job. I knew he was from Russia, but I didn't know he was actually part of the former Soviet military. And 40, I'm sure there's a lot of here in Texas. They better be careful not to send too many back because the economy will tank.
Well, that's what happens even up where we are at. Really.
Now, my boss gave me that story, and I didn't really think that much about it until one lady one time asked on the tour. She was a very inquisitive person. And she was asking her in the 1880s, 1890s, and early 1900s. So this is where their grandchildren and children came after they got rich. No one lives in these houses. These are all rented out to nonprofit organizations here in Dallas. And then over here on the left, there is a community garden, much like they may have had back then. As close as they could get to it. And then over here on the left is the Meadows Foundation. That's the foundation that monitors all of these and manages the nonprofit organizations. Now, you got to remember these houses here were built before electricity and also before air conditioning and cars. So these are set up with high roofs, 10 feet, 12 feet tall, and also wraparound porches and lots of trees in the yard. But they didn't have cars, so they had a carriage house. And these people were rich, so they could afford servants. So they had a carriage house over here on the right. That's where they kept the horse and buggy. And then over here on the left, those are the servant quarters. That's where they would have come out. Vendors out here during the weekends. Your typical farmer's market atmosphere. And then just on the other side of that is their new building. It looks like a courthouse.
Quite a few churches down here.
Then coming up here on the right is the Masonic, or the Scottish Rites Masonic Lodge. Dallas has a lot of headquarters back in 1963. And I'll take you by and show you again where Lee Harvey Oswald was being held and where Jack Ruby actually went down the ramp and killed him. For those of you who have not been on the JFK tour this morning, that would be you. Now, right over here on the right, this is ramp is where Jack Ruby went down that ramp and killed Lee Harvey Oswald in that building. Right there on the right.
Yeah, I had forgotten that piece. Isn't that funny?
And then this is where Jack Ruby was down here at this building. He was over here at the Western Union.
Just kind of hanging out waiting for him is what we're thinking, right? That was his mission?
No, just by coincidence is what the Warren Commission says. He happened to be there.
And just was mad at him?
Well, he wanted to shoot him. But he was there. The reason why it seems like a random event is because he had $9,000 of cash in his trunk, and he always carried a lot of cash. But he also, more particular than that, he had his dog with him, and I can't remember what his dog's name was, but Sylvia or something like that. And he cared more about that dog than he did anything else. So for him to risk that dog going into foster care and not have made a plan for it, that's why people think that it was a spur of the moment thing, that he just kind of acted impulsively, because he would not have done that and left that dog like that had he been, planning and plotting. He would have. This is the headquarters of billionaire real estate developer Trammell Crow.
Wait, there's something big going on, isn't there?
I got all these buses, yeah. And he and his wife, Margaret, well, they're both gone now, but they were very important in founding the art district here in Dallas.
Is he Native American?
Trammell Crow? No,
Yeah.
I don't believe
Sounds
so.
like it. Sounds like a. Well, at least in our area, we have a whole bunch of families named Crow, and they're all native,
Yeah.
indigenous.
No, I don't believe he was. I could be wrong, though. I haven't really researched it. There's a great story about him and his wife. And coming up on the left over here, you'll see one of the old trolleys that I was talking about earlier.
Yeah.
That one's probably from about the 1940s. Now, they started in the 80s having these come back. But the problem was they didn't have enough trolleys to operate the line, so a lot of cities around the world have donated their trolleys to the city of Dallas. And they each have their own individual names. I think that one's name was Matilda or Petunia or something like that. But one from Melbourne, Australia, you see it running around all the time. It's one of the newer kind of trams, and its name is Emma. You got so many buildings in here in Dallas, they thought about changing his name. Now I got paid.
Yeah.
But he's dead too. He's over 100 years old when he passed away. Over here on the right is the Margaret Crow Asian Art Collection. She traveled quite extensively and loved Asian art. So all of that is on display there. On the left over here is the AT&T Performing Arts Center. And then on the right over here is the Wiley Performance Hall. Followed closely over here on the right by the Moody Performance Hall. Then on the left over there, far left, is the Winchfield Opera House. And then over here on the left is the Booker T. Washington High School for the Visual and Performing Arts. Famous alumni, Ernie Banks, there on the statue. And then other famous alumni, Erica Badu and Nora Jones. And the children at the school made that statue there of a Pegasus. Big sell on bricks back then. And again, to our front, Fountain Place. You know, it's kind of blocked out by the sun, but it's a different perspective on this side. We'll ride past Fountain Place on our way to Highland Park over there. And over here on the left, that's Clyde Ward Park. It's the Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas. They don't make money there, but they sure keep a little bit.
Yeah.
And what I understand, during the week, if you're in town for a little while, you can come down here.
Pennies.
I don't think they give away free money. I think they do give away shredded money. Only thing that's good for maybe your Easter egg basket or some packing or something like that.
Right.
Now we're going to head over to the uptown area. We're going to transfer from the downtown to the uptown, and of course in the uptown things are always nicer and more expensive, right? We got a saying: uptown living, uptown luxury. But you'll notice a little difference over here as opposed to near the farmer's market. Anytime they have an opportunity to tear down an old building, they get rid of it. They put up something new, like these buildings here. A lot of these are apartment complexes, businesses. This is where all the young professionals live. Most of them work from home.
Go back again.
Now, over here on the right, you'll see some of what the old neighborhood looks like now. They just tore. If you're in town for a day or two, I would recommend you go and getting on that. Just kind of riding around because it's free. What do you got to lose?
Right.
Get off, get on.
You know, if you want, like, places down here, go shopping, that sort of thing. But I mean, there's other things that it goes by that, just ride it. I think might be pretty fun.
Yeah.
Just to say you did it, I don't know.
Yeah.
Now, it's not like probably riding the ones in San Francisco. That's a completely different type of system. There was a group of people from Pennsylvania that came down and purchased the land for about $270 an acre, which was an outrageous amount of money at that time. Today, that same acre is I do remember visiting during the summer. And my mom said, "Oh yeah, you can go swim in the lake while you're up there." Yeah.
Cold.
Lake Superior. I'm like, okay. And got in there about for a second
Yeah.
and out.
Yep, nope. That's it. We love that whole area, the North Shore Drive. And it's just beautiful.
But over here on the left is the ugliest house in Highland.
सनसेट है डेलस का 19th फ्लोर से देख रहा हूँ मैं मजा आ गया देख के सामने की बिल्डिंग में रिफ्लेक्शन। रात में डैलस में 19वीं मंजिल से ये नज़ारा है, ये स्विमिंग पूल है। अब मैं आपको दिखाता हूँ असली सुंदरता। ये देखो, क्या सुंदर लग रहा है। ये देखो, ये बिल्डिंग जो कल फॉग में आधी से ज्यादा गैप थी। ये देखो डैलस।